Dr. Daniel Sokol from the Imperial College of UK. We'll be talking about the state of the art in medical ethics education, reducing eye ethics.
That's right. Thank you, Chairman. Hope you can hear me. I'm presenting on behalf of myself, of course, but also of my excellent colleagues, John the Spiceman Spicer and Chara Balasubramanian. I've probably given hundreds of presentations, I think, in the past, but this is the most excited I've been about giving a talk. It probably doesn't show, but I am very excited. And the reason why I'm excited is because I think that this could change the teaching of medical ethics for the better. I think this could have a very positive influence for students. So iEthics stands for Interactive Ethics Case Simulations. Interactive Ethics Case Simulations. Now, this is the old way, and we're all familiar with the old way. We want students to discuss a case, so we write the case up on a piece of paper, usually, and we give them the piece of paper, and we say, look, read this, and then we'll discuss it. There's a lot of information packed into a short text. It's difficult to get a feel for the characters, isn't it? I mean, they're just names on a page. And there's a distinct air of artificiality about the whole exercise. All the relevant facts are neatly arranged into this little text. And it's also pretty dull. It's not very engaging. And there is a serious risk, a side effect of this, that can have a soporific effect on the students. So we wanted to improve on this. How can we make it more engaging, more interesting, more lifelike for the students? And we looked at virtual patients. Now, some of you may be familiar with virtual patients, others may not. So for those of you who aren't, a virtual patient is an interactive computer simulation of real-life clinical scenarios for the purpose of medical training, education, or assessment. So an example is, I'm not expecting you to be able to read this, but you have a little description, an introduction to a case, and at the end it says, what should you do next? And you have different options at the bottom. And so depending on what option you click, the story changes. So it's a bit like choose your own adventure. That's an example of a written virtual patient. Now, this is not the time to tell you how to create a virtual patient. It's not very difficult. But if you're interested in learning, we're happy to teach you later on. But the first step if you want to do a virtual patient is you need to create a story. You need to have a storyline, and this illustrates the map, the storyline, and not all the storylines, because there are different stories depending on what options you pick. And the different branches are different options that you can choose. And you can see that if you choose, and the yellow path is what we think is the best answers. And so you see that depending on what you choose, the story will change. So we don't think there are many virtual patients that deal with medical ethics. Although at St. George's, where Chara and John work, there are more and more virtual patient cases to do with medical ethics. The novelty of iEthics is that it's not a written virtual patient, but it's a video virtual patient. And the process of creating this video ethics simulation, this video virtual patient, is as follows. First of all, you create a written virtual patient. You can't go straight to video, you have to create the story. And John, Chara and I, we had about 2 or 3 meetings to discuss what the story was going to be. And we decided to focus on DNAR, do not attempt resuscitation, because it's ethically rich. There are lots of ethical issues and legal issues. It doesn't affect just one specialty. Lots of specialties are involved in these kind of issues. Doesn't just affect very senior doctors, but even junior doctors are affected by these decisions, and indeed nurses are also affected by DNAR orders. But of course, if you create your own, you can have it on anything you want. We then wrote the script. Now, we wanted the script to be realistic. And so there's a little bit of humor in there. In our scenario, the doctors laugh, because in hospitals, it's not all incredibly serious. We didn't want things to be wooden. We wanted it to be alive and again reflecting the reality of conversation. So we hired professional actors We gathered a film crew. We were lucky in that our university has a film multimedia team that deals, that films patients and films procedures and so on. So we used them. We auditioned and selected the actors. We filmed the scenes. It took us a day to film the whole thing. We edited, because obviously at the end you have lots and lots of recording, and you need to edit it to fit your particular story. And then you put the little video clips onto the web. So what you'll be able to do is to go on the internet, into the site, and then see the story. And I'll show you in a second. So that is the process. So I'm going to show you an extract. And this is a story so far. We're not going to start at the beginning. The story so far is you have a patient who's 79 years old, Andy Dufresne, and he's got severe COPD. And a capacity assessment was performed, and it emerged that he did not have capacity to make that particular decision. He's got a next of kin, who's his son, who's a paramedic in Canada. Now, at this stage, you may already have discussed the significance of capacity and autonomy to decision making. You may have discussed what assessing capacity entails and what are the problems with assessing capacity. You may have discussed the role of relatives in decision making, both in ethics and in law. You may have talked about the issue of confidentiality and disclosure. His son was involved. It depends really on what you want to teach, and one of the advantages of this is that it's very versatile. You can teach all kinds of stuff. So we join at this point, the story is, yes, the consultant geriatrician, the lady here, is speaking to the son about the situation with his father. So I think I just need to click this. Oh, I don't. Okay.
Mr. Dufresne, I spoke to your father earlier, and I believe he doesn't have capacity to make decisions for himself.
Yes, I know. He's very confused right now.
As you probably know, he's very ill.
Yes. Look, I know there's a chance he might not make it. I'm medically trained, I know he may go into cardiopulmonary arrest, and if that happens, please don't resuscitate him. He wouldn't want it. He really wouldn't.
Did your father speak to you about this?
Well, I remember 3 years ago, I think it was, last time I was here, watching some documentary on euthanasia with him. And we saw this guy on the TV gasping for breath with tubes everywhere, and my father said he would never want to live disabled. I know what it's like resuscitating somebody. You jump on his chest, break some ribs, break his dignity too. Please, just let him go.
Okay, so that's a little clip, and there are a number of options below on what do you do. Okay, now I'm not going to go through all the different options, but of course at this point you could discuss it with the class if you wanted to. I'm just going to show you again. These are two of the options. You can respect. The son doesn't want. What does the son want? The son wants the DNAR order written. Now you can either do what he says, or you can decide not to write it. These are just two of the four options. So imagine you decide to write the DNAR order. So you respect the son's wishes, and you would click
I
on the option.
understand. I will write the DNAR order, and I'll let the rest of the medical team know.
Thank you, Doctor. I really appreciate your help.
Okay, so you've done what the son wanted. Now let's say you decide not to do what he wanted, and you decide not to write the DNAR order. So you've thought about it, and you come back to the son.
Look, Mr. Dufresne, as I've said, I believe we should wait. We should see how he gets on before we write the DNAR order.
What if you arrest today?
It's unlikely. I feel it's too early to write the order.
Too early? Well, let's just wait until he dies and then write it. This is disgraceful.
Mr. Dufresne.
It's disgraceful.
Okay, so I think that illustrates quite well that depending on the option you choose, the story will differ quite radically. Okay, so what do you get when you have this the iEthics? Well, we decided to create a website, an iEthics website, and on this website you have the scenario, you have the case, all the videos. But we also added some teaching material, so there's a tutor pack which gives you some ideas for discussion in class. We also have video commentaries, where it's basically me at the bottom discussing various options. It's just an ethical commentary lasting between 2 and 5 minutes each one. It's for the lazy student, basically, who doesn't want to read the articles. He just clicks on that and you can add a commentary. We have the complete script of the scenario. If you want to look in depth, or perhaps if you're interested in the communication skills aspect, you can look at that. And we also have some online resources. So if you're in articles that are relevant to the specific issues that are being raised. And as I said, we've decided to make this open access, so it's available at no charge to anybody. You just go on that particular link and you will find all of this stuff. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this iEthics. There are disadvantages with it, with creating an iEthics case. And one of them is that it takes time, especially if you want to do it properly. It takes many, many hours. We've probably spent, between the three of us, hundreds of hours writing the case, improving it. We've asked, I would say, hundreds of doctors to look at this case. And we asked them, is this realistic? Is it boring? Is it interesting? What can we do to improve it? And so on. Another problem, of course, is that it's expensive. It's much more expensive than just writing the case on a piece of paper and giving a handout to every student. You need to pay professional actors, a film crew, and so on. So realistically, this is going to cost several £1,000s to do one of those. Especially the first time. I think after you've done the first one, it gets much easier because you know what to do. But there are advantages, of course. It's interactive and it's engaging. And the photo you have here is an example of a virtual patient being used in class. Now, we just do the old method of put your hand up if you think option A is good and why. But obviously, if you're more high-tech, you have these electronic voting systems that give you a graph on the thing. That's also good fun. But you feel much closer to the action using the video than using a piece of paper. And also, the good thing is we've been told by students that it doesn't feel like work when they're doing this. And as teachers, that's music to our ears. They don't even consider it work. It's realistic. In the military, they say that the best way to prepare for combat is to have repeated, realistic simulations of what it's going to be like on the battlefield. And similarly, I think if you want to teach students about how to do clinical ethics, you need to have repeated, realistic simulations. And we think this is pretty good. It's not as good as being on the ward, but this is pretty much as close as it gets in the classroom. It's versatile. The students can do this on their own, at home, on the internet. Or you can use it in the classroom. I used this with some junior doctors a few months ago. I only used one clip, and that was it, as a springboard for discussion. Or you can go through the whole thing if you want. You can focus on confidentiality, or you can focus on DNR. The possibilities are endless, really. Okay, and it's fun to create. It does take time, but it's fun to create. You can even get the students involved in the creation, in the script writing. Okay, so in conclusion, we believe that iEthics is a powerful teaching and learning tool. It's visual, it's interactive, it's versatile. We've also added lots of learning and teaching material to the website to enrich the experience. We think, again, that it's the next best thing to learning at the coalface. And the photo you here is a photo of a student who's using a virtual patient who's just killed the patient. So I think the photo speaks for itself. And the feedback we've received from students has been overwhelming, and junior doctors, has been overwhelmingly positive. And if you decide to use it, and hopefully you will decide to give it a go, then we would be very interested in getting your feedback, whether it's good or bad, on your experiences of using this. So as I said at the start, we're very excited about this new tool, and I hope I've conveyed some of this enthusiasm and persuaded at least some of you that iEthics would be a useful addition to your teaching arsenal. And finally, we are very keen to collaborate with colleagues from around the world on this project. We're looking to create more videos. We've only got one. The one you've seen is the only one we've created. So we're looking to create more. We're looking to find ways to integrate the videos into the medical curriculum. And perhaps, who knows, even use those videos in assessment. So if anyone is interested in collaborating and getting involved with iEthics, then please get in touch with us at this email address. Thank you very much for your attention.